I now call to order the special session of the Lake Havasu Unified School District Governing Board on March 5th, 2026. Call to order. Roll call. Here. We will now have a moment of silent prayer, private reflection. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion and a second to approve item 2.1. Yes. All right, this evening we are here for item 3.1, Student Achievement Early Release Days. And at this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Olson to please come and present your presentation. Now, you are also presenting the results of our survey that is sent out. So the governing board has not seen these results yet. I just want to clarify there's been, despite some of the rumors, there's been no predetermined decision by the governing board on early release days, and we are here to do what is best for students at the end of the day. So,
good evening, President Rose, members of the board. I'd like to provide a little context and outline the considerations surrounding early release days. In 2014, following a failed override election, the district reduced full-year elementary specials, art, music, and PE, to 12-week rotations. So this resulted in a 2/3 reduction in elementary teacher preparation time. That's when early release was implemented. It was a cost-neutral solution to restore that dedicated planning time and preserve instructional quality. Then, to support families who had students at multiple sites, the district adopted a uniform early release schedule across all school levels, elementary, middle, and high school. At this point in time, most elementary teachers receive between 45 and 60 minutes of planning on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and anywhere between 0 and 35 minutes on Thursdays, depending which site they're at. Middle school teachers and high school teachers have approximately 55 minutes of planning on non-early release days and about 40 minutes on early release days. These times, like I said, vary from site to site and by position. For example, an elementary specialist at one site might have 0 prep time on Thursday. A high school teacher may have 0 prep time if they're covering another class, so it varies a little bit. Currently, early release Thursday afternoons are used for common planning time, professional learning community meetings, department meetings, staff meetings, and professional development. And then planning time varies across sites depending on that staffing model. In the spring of 2025, the board began discussing early release schedules, and families expressed concerns about childcare and scheduling challenges during early release days. If early release days were eliminated entirely, all collaborative planning, staff meetings, professional development would all have to move to after hours. This would be a huge shift for our staff, and it would impact the district's ability to provide after-school clubs, athletics, tutoring, homework support, because teachers would be in meetings and professional development. However, students would benefit from more consistent learning routines, improved continuity across subjects, particularly reading, math, and what we call secondary block classes like elementary, social studies, and science the momentum of those classes tends to be reduced on shortened days. Removing early release helps ensure all students, including those with IEPs, English learners, and those needing additional support or enrichment, receive consistent daily instructional time. A full 5-day schedule would also reduce confusion for families around different dismissal times, easing transportation, childcare, and after-school arrangements. Eliminating early release days entirely would result in an additional 52.5 hours of instruction each year. That's equivalent to about 9 instructional days. Reducing early release days to once a month would increase instructional time by approximately 4.5 hours per month, about 45 hours over the course of the school year. That's equivalent to about 8 additional days. At the elementary level, this additional time would allow us to provide Tier 3 reading intervention 5 days a week, meeting Arizona Department of Education's 225-minute weekly requirement. This would also allow for 20 minutes daily for Tier 2 ELA instruction and 20 minutes daily for Tier 2 math instruction. However, this structure would create inconsistent schedules for families and possibly create hardships with child care. Maintaining a once-a-week early release schedule provides a predictable schedule for families. However, families who work traditional hours may struggle to secure affordable, consistent care. For staff, structured planning time during contract hours reduces after-hours workload. Conversely, instructional time is limited, and teachers will continue to feel rushed to cover grade-level content. There is a concern that implementing early releases every Friday would negatively impact both student and staff attendance, as shortened instructional days may lead to increased absences, early checkout, and reduced consistency and participation. This was a note that also came around today that I just learned. Early release days significantly reduced student participation in the high school lunch program, particularly among students who qualify for free and reduced price meals, resulting in many students missing a meal they would normally receive. The drop in participation at the high school with the decreased a la carte sales leads to an estimated annual revenue loss of about $98,500. On February 3rd, the district sent out a survey to staff and families seeking their feedback regarding the early release schedule. The survey was open for 1 week. 374 staff and 1,483 families responded. Over 90% of the staff preferred to have early release on either a Thursday or a Friday, and I combined those two in that graph because they were almost identical. 179, 52% of the staff chose every Friday. 163, 47% chose every Thursday. And that's why I would. 52% chose every Friday, 47% chose every Thursday out of that 90%. Okay. And then families, 1,137 families, 76% chose every Friday, 205, 13% chose every Thursday. Those are the facts I have for you, and I'm prepared to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to open it up for questions from the governing board. I'm going to launch the first question. Were there any families that voted in the survey to get rid of early releases?
Very few, maybe one or two. Very few.
Do you have an estimated number of how many other school districts in the state of Arizona also have early releases?
I do not. I can find out.
If you would let that for
Yep.
next week's meeting.
Yes, ma'am. No, most were, if it was not every Thursday or every Friday, it was once a month.
Do we have any idea how early, at least when it comes to transportation, the exact relief that would have if we got rid of it for transportation as far as like our busing?
I do not. I don't know for you. That is a concern. I did not think about. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yes. Right, so that they can actually use that once a month to do classroom practice with their teammates. Yes. I do know that it is a lift for a teacher to do all of the, I just want to say like background work that goes into teaching students. The pen, the prepping, the grading, the analysis. If it was reduced to once a month, having that protected time for them so that they could do that back end work during that time rather than being in staff meetings, professional development, having that at the other time. I would agree. I know that one of our grade levels, one of our primary grade levels, asked to condense their knowledge units in ELA so that they would have more time for skills units because it's time consuming. In third grade, the third grade pacing guide only teaches 4 out of the 6 science and history units simply because there isn't enough time. When you do the math, that means that kids are exposed to 66% of that curriculum. In 6th grade, we do the 100-day pacing guide for ELA as opposed to the traditional pacing guide because of that less instructional time.
When we look at a teacher schedule for a school district that doesn't have early release, what does that look like for staff meetings? What does that look like for training as far as hours? How long would they be staying after school? school, because obviously that's something we need to be taking into consideration. Also understanding that our teachers are salaried, but we also want, they also put hours in already. A lot of our teachers are here on the weekends, in their classrooms, grading papers, getting lesson plans, whenever no one sees them, that they're putting in the work. And so sometimes there's this false ideology or idea that teachers are only building schools roading, and that's just not true. I know I've driven past some of our schools, and you see cars in the parking lot, and it's our teachers in their classrooms grading papers, putting in the work. So our teachers understand the hours that it takes to commit to this job, or they would not be in it. But at the same time, we want to be respectful of their time, and their time with family is just as important as the students' time. And so I really feel that in looking at this, we need to find that balance, not just for our students, because family time is more the utmost importance, not just for them, but for our teachers. So what does that plan look like for staff meetings, professional development?
Right. So staff meetings would have to take place after school. And before we went to early release, Mondays was always staff meeting day. And you pretty much told us, don't make a doctor appointment, don't make a dentist appointment on a Monday afternoon, because you know you'll be there from 3 to 4 or 3 to 4:30. Professional development, again, with things like that, we've adopted the new math curriculum, so professional development might take place after hours or on a Saturday where they can get paid to come for that professional development.
Is there any other questions from the committee? Matt, do you have any questions?
No, you guys asked great questions. Thank you.
Can I add 2 more little facts?
Yes.
Approximately 29% of our students are absent on Thursdays or Fridays. I think that's a relative statistic. And then as far as teacher absences go, and this is just teachers, this is not paraprofessionals, we average about 27 absences on Thursdays, which is 11% of our teaching staff. And on Fridays, we average about 40 absences, which is 16% of our teaching staff. And I do know that is a big concern across sites is a Friday early release. It's so hard to find sub-coverage at the high school, at the middle school, at subs are being used at the elementary school. They end up covering for each other's classes, then they don't get their prep time. It's a never-ending circle.
What would you say the percentage, and I'm asking this because of conversations I've had with principals, what would you say the percent of teachers that actually stay on campus on Thursdays for the early release day?
I would say 90 to 95%. And I will say some teachers do take Thursdays, their Thursday afternoon for a doctor's appointment, because they would rather miss a meeting than miss time with their kids. Which I understand. They work on Fridays, yes. And kudos to those teachers, they would rather be with their kids than with parents. Meetings generally, correct me if I'm wrong, but a PLC meeting ends at 3 o'clock, and many teachers will go back to their sites, they'll work, they'll go back to grade papers to prepare their lessons, but generally meetings end at 3 o'clock on Thursdays.
And I feel the most important question, in your opinion, out of these options, what is best for student achievement?
For student achievement, we increase student achievement when we increase the precision, the intensity, and the regularity of instruction. That's what's best for student achievement.
Which is my belief.
So, do you have to consider any other factors? Do you have to consider staff concerns, planning concerns, only considering student achievement? With using the number of
You're asking me to take out the human element? They are my humans. Emotional well-being, yes, 100%.
And then I would say, there's only one way to I'm just trying to figure out what's the way and what's the way.
And our student achievement has been stagnant. And if we keep doing what we've always done, we will keep getting what we have always done.
So thank you for bringing that up. My follow-up question, when we look at our current early release day on Thursday, would you agree that for a student to leave school early on Thursday, which seems like kind of mentally like, hey, I'm going on break now, and then they have to come back the very next day on Friday and do a full day, would you agree that that would negatively affect our students?
I haven't been in the classroom for a number of years, but as a teacher to come back and then on Friday, it is so hard if you're trying to start a new unit or start a new chapter. It's really hard to start a new momentum on a Friday.
Well, and it's almost like unintentionally, in my opinion, we have given our students in the district this double Friday kind of layout. Like, hey, we have a Thursday early release day, which would be like a Friday, I'm going home, I'm going to play video games, whatever, your child does, and then they come back on Friday, and it is Friday. And the main thing on their mind is, it's the weekend, I'm going to hang out with my friends, I've got plans, I've got a sleepover, whatever it is. I'm going on vacation with my family. And so we have taken them out of education mode, and they're focused on what's coming in the weekend. And so I believe there's more of a negative impact in education in that moment than positive.
Do you have any other questions I possibly could answer? Great.
Yeah, so I'm actually, is that any other questions for myself?
Yes, I just want to reiterate finding out about transportation, the impact on transportation costs, and the number of schools in the state.
Thank you so much, Ms. Olson. All right, at this time, we are going to open up the floor. I'm going to start with those in the room this evening who are against changing the early release and leaving it the way that it is. And we will give you there's not that many people, so you will get 3 minutes. Originally, Dr. Stone and I, when we thought it was going to be a packed room, had decided a 1 minute, but I will leave it at 3 minutes based on there's very few people in attendance this evening. So we will start this evening with anybody that would like to come and speak against changing the early release day and wanting to leave it the way it is. If you would come to the mic, please state your name for the record and your 3 minutes. Yes.
I do want to just the attendance. I want to just the attendance. Which is why I was over and I texted all of you on the way over. There are 3 or 4 schools that have literacy night tonight, and Thunderbolt has a dance. So
Yes, Dr. Stone.
So we have a lot of stuff that would like to be here, but they need commitments at their site.
And we will open up a couple things. If you could let them know the email the governing board with any concerns or comments, and then also the next week's governing board meeting with all of them. All right, anyone that would like to speak against the change if you would please hand it over. Okay. In that case, we will close for those against it, open it up to those for change. Regardless of what change it is, you're welcome to come to the mic, please state the name, and share your statement. You get 3 minutes. All right. If there be no comment, then we will close the floor, bring it back to the governing board at this time for any further discussion.
I would say, like, from personal experience, if I don't get, like, none of my kids have, like, any sort of special accommodations made for them, that would be convenient. But all of them have had at least one instance where they needed extra time to take a test, and their teacher was very flexible about that. So, as long as that flexibility is in place, I would feel okay. I just wanted to answer that.
Yeah. Could you please bring the mic up? Just please state the name for the record.
I would just say that we have transitioned since we have new curriculum. I can't speak for everybody, but we don't necessarily have a testing Friday anymore. I will speak for myself that my grade level we test on Thursdays, not because it's early release, it's just where it landed in our schedule, but our spelling tests are on Thursdays. Part of why we do that is because we want families spending family time together too, so we try to spread that out. And then our units do not line up where everything ends anymore on a Friday. So you may have a test on a Tuesday, next week it's on a Thursday. So I feel like we can adjust in that.
Could you say the mic, please? I actually have a couple of questions. You can help with. So when we're looking at, earlier we spoke about the transition, students leaving early on Thursday, coming back on Friday. So could you just share with the governing board the pros and cons to our current schedule? From the perspective of the teacher.
The current schedule has been shared. It's been a flux. So we had early release once a month at once upon a time, and it was a pickup nightmare, I'm going to say, because parents didn't check regularly and they didn't know what day it was, and so we had some issues with that. When specials went away and we went to every day, it was more consistent. At the time when it was every other, so it's been the most consistent. The timing in the day on a Thursday is not adequate from school to school. In terms of, we have at our site, primary doesn't get prep time on a Thursday because we don't have enough specials, enough time in the day. However, we get our tier time 5 days a week for primary, which is golden for us because that is super consistent in what our kids need, to where the older students, grades 2 through 6, they don't get tier time on Thursday, they do get specials. And so there's some pros and cons of just that, of the scheduling, as we can be more consistent academic-wise in the primary grades. The thing that we give up in primary is on a Thursday is we don't do our leader and me program because it's a 4-day week program. So we have just made it where Thursday is an activity day and we implement indoor instruction. But we are able to hit all of our other aspects of instruction on that day because we don't have specials. And then the other part is, something your question again was about just the pro part of like leaving from a Thursday and coming back on a Friday. I'll be honest, the kids nowadays, it's been a schedule for so long, they don't know the difference. That's just like to them. And the mindset of the teachers is we're learning after school, we're prepping things for them. And so it's just making, that's been on like the last few issues. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Please turn on the mic. State your name for the record.
Charles Keller. So on the transportation chart, since I'm over transportation, I can't think of any reason at all to change the dollar amount one on transportation. get our kids ready for special education outside of the 10 grades that go to Thunderbolt. I don't see how it could be any change in class difference. So, and I'll just, from my experience, because I ran a large elementary school that had early release Fridays, it was lower attended, and we had a special thing trying to make it fun in the morning, and then a lot of parents showed to that, and then check their kids out. So Fridays wasn't very productive, and a lot of staff that was supposed to meet on Friday afternoons would always be like, hey, I got to meet early today. Hey, I got to, it was a lot of that. So it did not go very well. That's just my personal experience with Friday early release. Okay. And like I said, transportation is also done differently.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bell. Anyone else? Let's go past it.
From everybody. But when this discussion started, I reached out to family members and friends across the nation and asked them about their early release. And they don't have an early release embedded like we do, but they have them throughout the quarter or they'll take a PD day. So those are things that maybe you want to consider, thought if we change early release to. Because the concern is when am I going to be able to prep or do our meetings? It's really the meetings piece that I continuously hear from staff is in terms of how late we're going to have to sit.
And I can tell you my experience coming from the East Coast. They're in school districts, they do there. There are training days, professional development days, student teacher parent conference days, there's school those days. So the schedule looks very different and kind of helps fill in those gaps where teachers are not setting up. Anyone else? Speak now or wait for next time. Or put it in an email. Currently, our teachers on early release are staying to 4 o'clock, correct? Okay. So they're all going to be staying to 4 o'clock, unless they're scheduled. Or 3. I'm sorry, 3 o'clock. Okay, gotcha. No, I agree with that. Would you like to speak to that? No. Okay. Oh, come on. Yeah. And one of the conversations, there was a principal, I won't throw her under the bus, but she had come up with a great idea of scheduling her staff meetings to where her staff's time was still, precious to them, and really that will come down to the collaboration of each principal, how they want to run their school, and their staff for staff meetings and trainings, those types of things. And of course, if, let's say, we were to get rid of early release all the way together, or move it to once a month, then I believe we would then work with student achievement and the superintendent, assistant superintendent, to look at scheduling within the school calendar professional development days, to offset some of the time that teachers would normally have to come out on Saturday or stay after school.
when we're talking about things of training and releasing, that's just sort of usually a professional development, development seminar or a study. They still have, students still do have elevated work on top of that. So those are required to consider like content but things like newspapers, IEPs, and so there is a lot more than just you not have to see what 3 seconds to answer that, but when you factor in like I don't want to see how much happening at the and I need to make my parents more problem. It really does like that. Probably a lot more than just what I'm going to do. And I'm just thinking myself in that. I know I was I'm going to take some time on some people who are teachers asking if I have other things to do. I mean, answer is no. Like, I expect to keep up. I was not the same thing as being a teacher. And so I only know my own perspective. I don't know what it's like to be a teacher. I don't know what it's like to work a full day and then go home with a family and see what I'm going to do. Well, I'm going to get my own kids to soccer practice and do so I am definitely open to hearing about the stuff as well.
Yeah, and that's why, we have the special sessions and of course, unfortunately, some of our teachers didn't when they were coming to them to the point to be here. So please encourage them to email us as we are making these decisions. We are considering your thought processes as staff members, as directors, as principals, and as teachers. When we're making this decision, how it affects the entire district. And so your input, your feedback is crucial to help us make the right decision. Because while we agree it is about student achievement, we also don't want them to be stuck at the school till midnight, doing extra work that it takes. And I've spoke with teachers that are here coming in on Sundays to grade papers, especially our science teachers that are prepping labs and doing different things to get ready for the test. Every subject requires different input as far as content. So a math teacher may not be putting in the same amount of time that a science teacher is putting in, especially if they're putting labs together, all of the things. So we have to look at that from their lens at the same time from our lens of what the expectations are and really understanding. I had a great conversation with a long-term employee of the district who is now in administration, and they brought up a good point that I want to share, is we have 2 different generations that are working for the school district. We have the generation, we have a generation that would work their fingers in the dirt, and they would stay long hours, and they didn't care. They knew that's what was expected of them. And this isn't every profession. This isn't just in education. So please don't think I'm picking on teachers. This is across the board. And if you own a business, you will understand what I'm saying. Is the new generation is coming up really want to punch the clock from 8 to the time they're going home, and that's it. They're not going to put in any extra time. If they are, then they want paid for it. And kind of this microwave mentality. And so we need to understand that we are in this process really dealing with 2 different generations that have way different opinions of what this should look like as we're making these decisions. And we're here to do what is best at the end of the day for the district. While we appreciate everyone's input, I want my fellow board members to understand the decision that we make next Thursday will affect this district moving forward. And we really need to take that into consideration of what that will look like, not just student achievement, but what that will look like for our families and their schedules, what that will look like for our staff and their families and their schedules, what that will look like for training, what that will look like for staff. So we need to really take this next week as we're at home, doing things, and just kind of think through that, be looking for emails, and really make an educated decision that is best for this district. Yes.
That's one thing of thinking about financially from the teacher perspective, and then I don't think that as a family. But as a teacher, knowing that if we went, let's say, to 1 early release a month, as a teacher, I want show with fidelity, we need training. So I understand that aspect. But as a teacher, if I want to dedicate my time to my family on the weekend, I can stay late on a Thursday, whether I'm working at home. I could leave at 3, but I'm going to continue to make sure I'm prepped for the weekend. I go to work on Friday like normal, and I know that when the kids leave and I'm done with my day at 3 o'clock, when we're about to leave, I can leave and I'm getting in the car, we're driving to Phoenix, and off we go. One concern, and this is not just for myself, but when staff, when we talk about Fridays, one, attendance is a concern, but also as a teacher, we don't want to leave until things are done and ready for that next week, and that is one possible concern is we would have from 1:15 for those teachers that have to be after school, which most elementary schools we stay with our kids until at least 1:15. We would stay 1:15 until 3 planning and prepping. If it's not done and we're not done with those conversations and we're not ready for the next week or whatever's coming, that's a concern that we now are putting people's plans with their family for the weekend in jeopardy. That's just a thought. For families, I will tell you that when they have Thursday early releases, often if they're going somewhere, they pull them out still sometimes early on Thursdays. They'll pull them out at lunch for whatever reason, and then they're gone half of Thursday, Friday. So whether then if we move it to Fridays and it's early release Friday, and we're like, oh, we're going to do jumpstart, now we're going to take all of Thursday off, and it's only half a day Friday, we don't need to know. So I feel like a family perspective is a little bit different than teachers, and just knowing that we're going to protect teacher time. We are in a different generation. I'm 22 years in, and I've seen that swing. And when I read those things on their Facebook, just like all of you, I don't give a lot of attention to it because it's not talking from the majority. I don't think either, because we know we are going home and we are working still, and even if we're not writing something out or grading papers every night, we're thinking about it. We're messaging each other, texting, planning sometimes. So I feel like teachers that are doing the job that they need to do, they're highly effective in their role. They have been at this work a long time and they care about kids. They are doing what they need to do every single day to make sure that they have their needs met. And we're not. We are doing it every single day, the hours that we're provided at school as well as beyond that. So that is a generational shift that we have to show and model that planning, but we can't really teach that to everybody and what that looks like if that's an internal thing.
I've been in your classroom, and you're a great teacher, and you're a rare breed, so I appreciate it.
And we're hoping to bring more of that, right? We have a lot of phenomenal teachers in our district, and we want people to want to be there for their kids. And we want families to see that.
Thank you so much. Any other comments from the governing board?
I think it's all one. So, there was several of you that maintained education for teaching to Friday, and you can already suggest that it's more Friday. And it would be one thing if those absences for both students and teachers, if those absences only affected those students who were on Friday. What concerns me is that if I'm a teacher and half of my class is there on Friday, I'm probably not going to introduce the material that I otherwise had planned. I'm not going to teach something new knowing that on Monday I'm going to have to start my class. And so I'm worried that if we switch to Friday, those absences won't just affect those students. It will affect the entire classroom, and we won't just be keeping the early release reduction at 1.5 hours per week. We're actually going to be reducing it by 4 days. And maybe there's some upside to that too. Maybe if Friday is people aren't introducing new material, maybe they're taking that time and reinforcing lots of stuff that's already been taught. And so maybe there is an upside that I'm not really considering. But like I said, the reduction in introducing new material really is one of my mind. So, and then the other thing I wanted to say, so starting this way, I really appreciate the time that it's taken out of that data. And it is a piece of information that we can use to make our decision. When I look at the family results, families tend to make decisions that are best for them. Of course, the parent isn't considering their own children first. That's what we've done as a parent. But looking at the entire picture and how any of our decisions affect the entire student population is what makes us student members. And so the decision that we're making up here is a lot different than what a decision would be made at a family level.
one thing, as we make this decision, and maybe input from our superintendents, as we look at attendance, strengthening our policy on attendance for the governing, as a governing board, and what that would look like to hold families, students accountable. Because accountability, not just, we don't just expect to hold our teachers and staff accountable, but students as well accountable as part of learning and school. So I think we also look at that, and if that's a decision we're looking at, like, okay, what would progress look like? What policy could we do to strengthen for attendance to hold those students accountable?
So many things that happen to them, and then you can have a person of structure when some of those kids have one of us is time. And so we thought it was a huge responsibility job from that point to get getting, after the letter was out and that was happening. But it was a contract. We got the training.
So that last question again.
It was a return officer after the letter was out, and then we had practices with the side. Yeah.
Dr. Stone, we're going to turn that question to you. The question from that one is, so the parent receives a letter, absence continues, now they're in truancy. Is it our SROs that are responding to that and contacting the parents, or is that turned over to the local police department and one of the other officers?
Depends on the things that are take on it. So oftentimes our principals and our staff are going to be the ones reaching out to try to change that, to try to get an attendance plan in place, to get them to understand the importance of attendance. But my staff principals actually, we would refer them for a visit. Who chooses to do that based on truancy, it could be assigned to our SROs, but that's going to be the department's call on it.
And so
We do establish a program, and we do try to contact parents and help them understand that this is why we need your child to be in attendance, so we can communicate. Sometimes that's really helpful, and other times it's just not.
And I would ask that over the next week that we really look at policy number 5-103, which is our attendance and absence, excuse absences policy, and really think about strengthening that as an option if we look at Fridays. Yes, please. Yes. Okay, I was actually going to ask you for your input.
So what the truancy issue, two things. What the truancy issue looks like at the high school level is a collaboration between an assistant principal and the SRO. Now, it's not a elementary kid. We're talking to more adult kids that are taking on adult roles. And we're teaching them skills beyond the classroom when they walk across the stage. So they are responsible for getting themselves to school. They have means. If they can figure out how to get to the skate park on the weekend, they can figure out how to get to school during the week, for example. This year, we added another element to it. The student not only meets with a vice principal and the SRO, we've added our school counselor into the conversation as well. So now we have 3 people on our campus that are aware, that pay close attention to grades, and grades are really what dictate where we're going to go in terms of citing that student. They do get warnings that take place prior to just slapping a ticket in front of them and a court date, but there's a lot of factors that go into that rather than just handing the ticket off. The other thing that you're talking about policy, I'll say stay tuned because Ms. Olson is bringing stuff before the board when it comes to grading policy and citizenship grade. I was on that committee as a principal, not as an assistant superintendent. My group was in charge of the citizenship grade. I worked with 2 others, and there is an attendance component to that citizenship grade.
Awesome. Is there any questions for Mr. Becky? Any other questions? Item 4, is there any announcements? Dr. Stone, do you have any? Mr. Bethel? No, we're not. There's no action item. No. All right, then I need a motion and a second on item 5.1 to adjourn. And I second. Madam Secretary, will call the roll.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Have a great night.